Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this SBA Economic Injury Disaster Loan Process Overview webinar. My name is Renee Goodnow. I'm from the New York Small Business Development Center, and I'll be your moderator today. Joining us for panelists are Dr. Marsha Gordon. She is the President and CEO of the Business Council of Westchester, and Tom Morley, Director of the Rockland SBDC. I'd like to make a quick note. We're going to take questions at the end of the webinar, so definitely feel free to type those in as we go in your questions box, and we'll definitely get to those at the end. I'm going to turn things over to Marsha now.
Very good. Thank you, everyone. And most of all, Renee and Tom and Howard Stein, who many of you know. I want to thank the Small Business Development Center, who is always a partner with us, always there for us, always working with our members. And when this all started just unbelievably a few days ago, they have been working hand in hand with us to best navigate our small business community in Westchester and the region through the process of disaster loans. And what I anticipate is that this will be the first of probably what will be several webinars. Please follow the Business Council of Westchester. We are your repository for all information. We are getting out information as quickly as we can interpret the information and get it out to you correctly. So please follow us on Facebook and on LinkedIn and Twitter, and our webpage, which is thebcw.org. I would just like to say, I know many of my staff members are on this. Of course, none of us are at work in person, but we are absolutely available to the business community in Westchester, virtually, by phone, by email, basically 24/7. So thank you, Tom. I'll turn this over to you.
Marsha, before you send it over to Tom, I turned your webcam off before we got started. If you want to share your webcam again, just so folks can see you quickly. I'm sure they've seen your face many times, but if you want to do that,
Okay.
Marsha's up there on the top.
Am I on now?
You are. Thank you.
Great.
Apologies for turning that off, and thank you for that intro. And without delay, I'll turn it back over to Tom.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tom Morley from the New York State Small Business Development Center, and our thanks go out to the Business Council of Westchester and Dr. Gordon for their support and their partnership. It enables us to do our work, and we're very appreciative of that. We are facing an unprecedented challenge with this COVID-19, both as business owners and as citizens. Unlike a storm, this is a national scale disaster. The storm affects one or two or three states, maybe the East Coast, maybe the West Coast. This is affecting the entire nation. We're called upon to do a lot of things to get through this, and we will. We will survive this. We'll survive it together. We're going to take a look today at the SBA Economic Injury Disaster Loan Process. This is just a basic overview. I have to say there are so many different types of businesses, different industries, different situations, and everything else. This is a general overview. Some of what we do today won't apply to your business, some will. I would encourage folks, we're going to put some web addresses up throughout the course of this, take some notes, or at the end we'll have the web addresses up as the last slide as well. And reach out for assistance. Reach out to the Business Council, help each other, help us, help you, and we'll do the best we can to get through this. Okay. Excuse me. So with that, let me, I'm not sure why I'm not, there we go. Okay. New York small businesses, we'll talk a little bit about definitions later on, can apply for SBA economic injury disaster loans up to $2 million. The interest rate on those loans is 3.75%. Nonprofits can borrow at 2.75%, and it's very restrictive how many nonprofits and which type can apply. In the interest of keeping payments very affordable for small business, SBA will extend the terms on this up to 30 years. Most terms will not be 30 years, they'll be less than that, but they will be long-term loans. I should point out, because I don't think I had the information when these slides were put together, there's a 1-year deferral of payments. So your payments will not start on these loans until 1 year from the date that you got the loan. So your applicant business has to be directly affected by the pandemic, and you have to be in business offering products or services directly related to the declaration. That's not going to be an issue in New York. Every business in New York has been affected. I mean, there are some exceptions, gambling and things like that, but pretty much every business in New York has been affected by this. They also will address secondary issues associated with the disaster. So if your restaurant closed, the food service supplier is not selling you product. The cleaning service that you were using is not cleaning your restaurant. They also are eligible to apply for loans. So these are, and keep this in mind, these are working capital loans, which means it's cash for your operations. These are some important links. We'll close with this slide also, but if you want to take some notes, that would be good. And I'll make sure that Marsha gets a copy of all these addresses and can send them out to the membership as soon as we're done. So to get assistance from the SBDC, just go to our website, request an appointment. That'll fill out a form to get us started. And that's what essentially lets us help you. I should point out that all the service in the SBDC is free and confidential. For general SBA information, you can go to sba.gov. For disaster information, you can go to disasterloan.sba.gov/ELA. I would caution everybody at this point in time, as a national disaster, many, many people will be applying for these loans. SBA will meet every bit of the demand they can. They're committed to meeting all the demand, but the application website is running slowly because so many people are trying to get on. It has crashed on occasion. So just a couple of general rules for you. When you're filling out your application, please make sure you're saving it frequently. And please make sure you jot down your username and other information so you can get back into your application. It does save. You don't have to finish it in one sitting. You can go back and work on it on an interrupted basis. Okay, so the criteria. The applicants must have a credit history for their business. That just means that you've had credit somewhere. It can be anything from a car loan, a lease on a copier, a working capital line of credit, a bank relationship with other suppliers or some such thing. You have to be able to demonstrate that you had a little bit of credit somewhere. That shouldn't be too difficult for most businesses. SBA will determine your eligibility also based on what they see as the probability of repayment. That, okay, prior to this disaster happening, your business was reasonable and you should be able to afford $500 a month, $1,000 a month, $10,000, whatever it is. They will take a look at that and determine that you've got a probability of repayment. To qualify also, the small business has to be physically located in New York State, and you have to have suffered working capital losses due to the COVID-19 outbreak. So working capital losses means that beyond just the decline in sales, that you've continued to pay employees, you paid off suppliers that you owed money to, you've paid your utility bills, your rent bills, your mortgage bills. This loan is not intended to replace your sales, it's intended to replace your working capital. You can ask for a specific amount based on having done a bit of a plan. You always should do a little plan and figure out how much money do I need to get to a point in time. The general number that we're sort of working with at this point in time is 6 months. What do you need to get through from now till about 6 months from now? That's the kind of number that you want to focus on, and you need to do some planning and you need to do some strategic thinking about that. Which of your people do you need to retain? How do you need to retain them? Are you going to use the Department of Labor shared workforce program, which lets your people work part-time for you and essentially part-time for DOL and receive unemployment? So there's lots of ways that you can work that. As we noted, these are working capital loans. So you can pay fixed debts, mortgages, vehicles, equipment, payroll, accounts payable, et cetera, et cetera. They are not used to replace lost sales, particularly lost profits, and it can't fund the expansion of the business. If you were in the middle of an expansion plan, it can be interesting how we might be able to quantify that. Talk to your advisor and we'll see. But you can't use that to open a new location. If you're already in process with opening a new location and you've signed your lease and the sign is up on the door, different story. But this isn't an investment in your business by the government. This is a rescue of your business by the government. If you're unsure of how that would work or if your business qualifies, contact your SBDC advisor. We can help you determine what your qualifications are, how you would plan for using the loan, and making sure that you stay in compliance with all the other criteria of the program. So some of the specifics. Any loan that's over $25,000 requires collateral. They will start with collateral that is already in the business. Anything from furniture and fixtures, equipment, inventory, etc. Any assets of the business. There will be a UCC filing for those familiar with that, and it will take a position. The collateral can also be real estate. If your business owns your building or some such thing, as the business owner, it might involve personal real estate. And the SBA will take a second, third, fourth position. They know that you've been in business. They know that you have other UCCs out there and whatever. They will take whatever position is going to be available. A lack of collateral isn't necessarily a reason for a decline, but they will look at the specific borrower to use some personal assets as some collateral. Having collateral also doesn't mean that you're guaranteed to get the loan. Your credit history is going to factor into that, but having the collateral goes a long way toward making a lender a little more comfortable. And again, this is a loan. This isn't a grant. We already talked about the fact that the applicant business must be in New York State. You must have a physical presence. Even if you have a virtual business, an online business, you must have a presence in New York State. That would be the physical address from which you conduct your virtual business. You can use a post office box as an address, but you also will need to list on the application what your specific physical address is. Mobile businesses, it's a whole different thing. We can address that offline. Barns, farms, and agricultural businesses have separate programs that are not part of SBA. They're part of the U.S. Department of Agriculture. So if you're in an ag business, give us a call and we'll tell you what you've got to do for that. But ag businesses are not eligible under this. Okay, so you have to be a small business. Now, the infamous rule of thumb is 500 employees. I can tell you that about 98% of the businesses in Westchester are small businesses. So the odds are in your favor that you're going to qualify as a small business. SBA.gov can help you with that. Generally, you're going to be a privately owned corporation, a partnership, a sole prop, something of that nature, and you're going to have less revenue than businesses that are classed as a larger business. There is a chapter in federal law that defines a small business. If you are concerned about that, again, we can take you through some specifics on that offline and determine that you are a small business. We do give some examples here of what types of businesses are certainly eligible: manufacturers, restaurants, retailers, wholesalers, hotels, marinas, recreational facilities, rental property, residential or commercial, which for folks that maybe have done other SBA stuff over the years, this is one of those occasions where they treat it differently because SBA generally has that owner-occupied restriction. This doesn't. So you can be an owner of rental property and still qualify under this program. Since this is a federal program, religious organizations, charitable organizations are not eligible. Gambling concerns are not eligible. So casinos, racetracks, et cetera, are not eligible if more than 1/3 of their revenues are derived from legal gaming. And as I mentioned, ag businesses are not eligible for disaster loans. They would go through the Department of Agriculture, which has a whole different program similar to this, but it is from ag, it's not from SBA. So these are economic injury loans coming from the United States Treasury. Folks that may have dealt with SBA in the past may think, oh, I go to my bank and I apply there and SBA guarantees it. No, this is a direct loan to you or your business by the federal government. There is no fee to apply for a disaster loan. There are no points on disaster loans. There also is no obligation to take the funds if you're approved. So going through the process is a good thing to do, even if you're not sure that you need the money. And I'm sure a lot of folks sitting there saying, you know, who wouldn't need the money? Well, we don't know when this is going to end. Let's say, you know, skies open up and we have a miracle cure and this all goes away in a couple of weeks. You know, well, then it's over. And maybe the impact on your business was not so severe, you need a loan. The other things you have to make a determination of. Most of these loans will be personally guaranteed to the SBA. So you do have to make a decision and say, okay, how much am I comfortable saying that I will make good on? If whatever happens and your business goes south at some point and you still have this loan outstanding, SBA is going to say, well, you still owe us money. They'll convert it to a long-term note, but they still want to get paid. So, you know, that's going to be a consideration for some folks in terms of what's my exposure. There are timelines that apply. Right now, the application review time is estimated at about 21 days. I would be a fool if I didn't say that's going to change. SBA is doing their best. They're bringing folks in from all over the government to set up the call centers, the underwriting centers, and everything else. But as a national disaster that has affected every corner of this country and every sector of industry, there literally will be hundreds of thousands, millions of businesses applying for this. Be patient. SBA is doing the best they can. And I work with the government. I can kind of say this, you know, we're doing the best we can, but we can't do everything instantly. It's just not going to happen. So, you know, talk to us about timelines to make sure that you get things in an appropriate timeline such that you've got the flexibility to do what you need to do with the loan or without the loan. A lot of folks have asked us, can they take this loan if they have another SBA loan? Yes, you can. SBA will not consolidate the loans. They are two different loans, or three or four, with their own terms, conditions, payments, etc. This is not a consolidation loan. This doesn't take out a 504 if you've got some real estate with SBA financing. It doesn't take out a 7A loan, which are other SBA working capital loans. It doesn't take your bank out. These are all standalone pieces of your business. And the fact that you may already have a disaster loan, particularly in New York, where we still have some folks with some Sandy loans and some Irene loans and things of that nature, this is just another disaster loan. The fact that you already have one does not count against you. In fact, if you've got one and you're paying promptly on that, that's probably going to help you because SBA is going to look at their own books and say, well, geez, they've been paying us on this one. They'll probably pay us on the new one. So don't be too concerned if you have other SBA products out there. So a couple of things that you're going to need. And I would say start getting some of this stuff ready. Have it in a little folder when you sit down at the computer to go to the website and start the application process. Like we say, you've got to have the completed 5 or 5C. You're going to do that online. What you may wish to do is set up your account, set up your password. You can download a PDF fillable form of the Form 5C, or a PDF fillable file, I should say, of the 5 or the 5C. It's just for different types of businesses do the 5, some do the 5C. And fill it out by hand. This way, when you do catch a break on the computer and you can actually get in and enter some stuff, you'll know what you're entering. If you've got any questions as you're filling out that form, please call us. We'll be happy to answer your questions to the best of our ability. If we don't have an answer, we'll get an answer for you. You're going to need to sign an IRS Form 4506T, which you can download at irs.gov or from the SBA website. The 4506T is called a tax transcript form. That lets the SBA, as part of the underwriting process, call up the IRS and say, hey, Tom filed his taxes. These are the numbers he gave us. Is that the numbers you're showing? They're just making sure that everybody is being on the up and up with stuff, which, as citizens and taxpayers, we want them to do. We want them to run a good shop. So they're going to check your tax returns. You will need a complete copy of the most recent federal income tax return for the business itself for the last 2 years, so 18 and 19, and for the business owners, anybody that owns more than 20% of the business. We need to have a federal income tax return from them as well. The Schedule of Liabilities, SBA 2202, is part of your current financial statements, which would include the summary of any long-term and short-term debt that you've got, any credit lines you have out, etc. You're already disclosing it on your financials. You'll see 2202, you're just filling in the boxes a little bit differently than maybe your statement shows. QuickBooks puts this on this side, 2202 puts it on that side. It's the same information. You're not having to create anything. The personal financial statement, the SBA 413, is a listing of all your assets as a human being and all your obligations as a human being. So you've got a house that's worth X and you've got a mortgage on it that's worth Y. So you list all your assets, you list any debts against those assets, that you've got a car lease, you've got this, you've got this, you've got this. And that's so SBA has a basically complete picture of you as a business and a business owner. Keep in mind also that SBA are government employees. They are intelligent, hardworking folks, but they're not doctors or attorneys or bankers or manufacturers. They don't know your business. They may call up or email you and say, hey, we need to get this or this so we can better understand your business, how it works, and why it works. So be prepared that they're going to ask you some additional questions. It comes strictly from the fact that they need to understand your business. The SBA will accept paper applications. I would caution against that because it is much easier, faster, and more accurate to file electronically, kind of like with taxes. You get to the end of your taxes, click submit, you're done. You don't have to worry about, oh, did the printer print all the pages? Did I get them all in the envelope? Did I sign everything? Back and forth. So it is easier to do electronically. And as I say, you can save it as you're going through the process. So, make sure you save frequently. The website has been known to crash. Not often, but a couple of times. So you might want to make a little personal rule that, every 5 questions you answer, click save. It's all digital information. It's a lot easier. If you do want to file by paper, maybe you're just not comfortable digitally, whatever, that's fine. You can download the forms, print them out, fill them in, sign them, and we'll tell you which address you're sending them to. SBA will be using multiple processing centers. So we'll tell you which one they want you to file with in terms of a paper application. SBDC advisors are here to assist you with the application and the planning process. We're here to help you figure out how much do you need? What exactly are you going to achieve? This, we've been doing a number of these presentations to businesses in the last several days. Think back to when you were starting your business. You made a lot of hard choices. I need this, I don't need that. I gotta have this, I'd like to have that. This is gonna be a bit of a process like that. What do I need to survive? Yeah, we can add everything up and say, yeah, hey, if I had 100 grand a month, I can survive for a year. Okay, well, you just bought yourself a payment of about $1,000 a month to get the $100,000. Is that in balance for your business? Does it work for your business? Does it work for your circumstance? So plan a couple of scenarios. Are there other markets you can start to look at? We had a client this morning we were chatting with, sells primarily commercially into basically HBA, health and beauty aids. And one of the things they're going to try to do is try to do a website to sell their stuff direct to consumers for a while and to assure their resellers that this is only an interim step and they just need to keep the business going. So what do you need to do to keep your business going? Are there other things you can look at doing? Are there other markets you can pursue? And how can you work things out with your employees? Intellectual capital is a very serious asset in most businesses. You've spent a lot of time developing your employees, your procedures, your processes, your methodologies. If you're manufacturing things, your recipes, your secret sauce. How can we help you retain as many of those people as possible? Whether we do the DOL shared work program, whether you negotiate with your employees and say, hey, here's what I can do as the business owner. I can, cut back your hours. I can do this. I can do this. Be creative, be human, be honorable. Realize that this does affect everybody. If you're in a rental space, talk to your landlord. Maybe they can cut you a little slack for a while. Give them something, but maybe you can get a little break for a bit and add it to the back end on your lease. Talk to your bank. If you've been making payments that include principal and interest, maybe you can go to interest-only payments for a while. It's worth having some of those conversations. Be creative. It's your business. We want it to survive, and we're generally sure you want it to survive even more than we do. So be creative, work with advisors, work with your attorney, your accountant, etc. See what you can do. Okay, so this is just some more information that you're going to need. We're jumping around a little bit, I realize. So yeah, all your schedules from your federal income tax and everything else for the principals, partners, and managing partners and affiliates. Affiliates gets into a whole different area. We're just going to touch on the fact that it will ask you about affiliates in the application. There is one of the links we have for you is the definition of affiliates for SBA. There are different levels and types of affiliates. And the fact that Mary Jones or John Smith owns multiple businesses, if they are unrelated businesses, they are affiliates only insofar as they have common ownership. However, if you've got multiple businesses at the same address in the same industry that do business between each other, that's a different type of affiliate, and it's going to be different how you would have to file. The fact that it's a different company, if it's deeply affiliated, we may not be able to do a separate application for it. If you own a body shop in one town and a hair salon in another town, and they don't do anything together, that would be two applications. You have to disclose the fact that you are the common owner in both of those, but they would be separate applications. You will need a current year-to-date P&L for the business. If you're using Sage, QuickBooks, whatever, that's fine. You don't have to get your accountant in to do a quick report for 2.5 months worth of sales. You also, we didn't put on the slide, but you will also need a basically through, let's say, March 15 balance sheet for your business. One of the things that information is going to show SBA, in addition to the 1386, the sales report, is what the impact has been on your business. We've worked with a number of companies in Westchester, some of whom were billing tens of thousands of dollars a week this time last year, and this year they're billing a couple of thousand. Easy to document the impact that it's had on their business. That sudden shock to cash flow creates a working capital problem. That's the problem we're trying to fix, is the working capital. We're not trying to replace your sales. We're trying to fix that loss in working capital so you can continue to survive. You are also, part of this process, you're going to be asked to project forward what your sales will be. Any projection at this point in time, yes, we can say semantically any projection is just that. It's a pipe dream. But you can say if things continue as they are today, this would be the impact. That's the information we have. That's the information you can use to project forward at this point in time. You can say if, for example, depending on how your distribution works, et cetera, you can say in some of the documentation that you'll provide to SBA that it's going to take you a long time to rebuild this or this type of relationship. If you're a contractor, for example, if we know that you're working with hotels as one of the key market segments that you work with, and the hotels have taken a very specific hit, you might be reasonably saying, okay, it's going to be 2 years before we get back to the level of work because our customers will be taking a long time to get back to a normal level of business activity. So you're going to have to think through, think strategically, make some plans, make some decisions. And there's a lot of folks here to help you. The Business Council of Westchester will provide all the assistance they can. SBDC, we like to call it your SBDC because it is. SBDC is part of the State University of New York. It's a partnership with the university system and with the government and with business associations to provide specific assistance to your business. We don't look at a neighborhood and say, oh, this neighborhood needs this. No, we look at your business and say, how do we help you achieve your dreams? How do we help you survive in this case? So to request the assistance from SBDC, go to that first link. You'll fill out its name and address and some other demographic information. That then gets automatically mailed to the location that's closest to you. The SBDC has many, many offices around the state, and we will be assigning based on need and based on volume. So you may start with a person down here who'll get you started on something, and then as you have some questions, they may be answered by someone in a different office, but everybody is very well trained on this, and we're going to do our best to answer your questions as quickly as we can, so we have to do a little bit of capacity planning there. So for general SBA information, just go to sba.gov, and they do have a search bar there. You can search for all sorts of stuff, you know, certify as a small business, certify as this, certify as that. There is no, some folks have asked, well, I'm an MWB, I'm a minority or a woman-owned business enterprise. Makes no difference on disasters. Disasters are equal opportunity abusers. It abused every business out there, not just women-owned businesses, not just majority-owned businesses. Every business is being affected by this. But do have that paperwork ready because it's part of the history of your business, and we may need to provide that to explain why your business is what it is. So the affiliate definitions for folks that do have affiliates, that's that last link there. It's a PDF file, you can download it and read it. If it doesn't make any sense to you, give us a call. I can tell you right now, it's not going to make sense to a lot of people, but we can help you kind of work your way through that and figure out what's applicable to you. And with that, I thank you for your time and attention. We have a few minutes for questions. So I will try to answer questions to the best of my ability. If not, we will get back to you with an answer as soon as we can.
Great, thank you, Tom. Those links that you provided on the screen, I also just put into the chat box. If anybody has trouble with those, let me know. We did have a few questions come in. First one is, I understand there are loans at about 3.5%. Are there any grants available?
No, there are no grants available. For those who were around in a business like after Superstorm Sandy, when there were some grants from New York State, the only thing I can tell you on that is the scale and scope of this disaster is such that, in my personal opinion, I don't believe grants will be forthcoming anytime soon. If for no other reason, there's just too many people affected. Just way too many people affected for the government to be doing grants. The government would run out of money if they did that.
Thanks, Tom. Do you think locally there would be grants available on that level?
I would not be surprised if on a very small level, there might be, where a particular municipality comes up with a program for it. I would say, though, everybody should go through the SBA process. If you're very small, if you think you need less than $10,000, call us offline. There are some smaller, quicker loan programs, but they max out at $10,000. One of the ones in Westchester with Community Capital, Community Capital is a very committed micro lender in Westchester. They've been in Westchester for many years. Great program. They've got a $10,000 disaster loan program with a 2% interest rate. I don't recall offhand what the term of the loan is, but if $10,000 can do it for you, that's the place to go. So if grants do show up at some point, great. Some communities, I mean, New York City has a grant program going, but it's very specific. Their grant program is for folks with 5 or fewer employees. And the purpose of the grant is to retain those employees. So you have to have suffered at least a 25% reduction in sales, probably not too hard to document for most folks. And you have to have retained your employees. If you have, I don't remember all the numbers, but I think the maximum was $25,000. But that was for New York City business only, like physical address in New York City. That's the only grant program that I'm aware of at this point in time.
Thank you, Tom. We had a couple questions around nonprofits and not-for-profits, who's eligible and who's not in those categories.
Essentially, most faith-based entities are probably not. Any entity that essentially gives away money is not, because the government's not in the business of giving you money to give to someone else. We think at this point in time, I'm not 100% sure, but we think at this point in time that not-for-profit entities with a business purpose, for example, chambers of commerce, things like that, will be eligible. So it's going to be case by case. So I would suggest give us a call. The best number, I didn't plug our number yet. The number for the SBDC here in this area is 845-356-6065. Once again, 845-356-6065. Give us a call, and we'll do the best we can to answer your question. If we don't have an answer, we'll get it for you. Just give us a day or two, and we'll find it out. And with the non-profs, there's a lot of complex rules on that. So just give us a call offline, and we'll try to answer your question.
Great, and I also put that number in that chat box along with all of those links. If you're having trouble navigating to it on your GoToWebinar doc, there's a drop down that says chat, and you can click on that and those should show up there. We had another good question come in. This person is a bank workout specialist. The requirements are very stringent in terms of collateral and personal guarantee. It is vital the potential borrower be clear about the risks, as many have not been asked to make these pledges. How will a borrower gain clarity about his or her obligations from the SBA?
Because there will be a full set of loan documents that will come out of the underwriting process. We do know the rate is 375. That's published and announced. The term will be set through the underwriting process. So we would know that, okay, SBA says, we think you can afford X, so therefore you're going to get a 14-year term. Similar business might get an 18-year term, whatever. It can go up to 30. So prior to incurring the obligation, the borrower will have all that information in writing from SBA.
Thank you. Are Catholic schools considered religious organizations?
That's a very magic question, because many schools refer to themselves as non-denominational, like the St. Mary School for boys, and it's the non-denominational school. So again, that's going to be a case-by-case kind of thing. Schools generally are not eligible for disaster loans under this program. There is a program that sometimes comes out for things of that nature, that's announced a little bit later when they have a little more time to catch up with it. And it's generally limited to specific damage areas or specific types of damage. So we'll just have to keep an eye on it and see if something comes out for that.
Great. Do you need to register with FEMA before applying?
No, that only occurs in storm-related disasters, where FEMA is taking the lead management role in handling the disaster. We had that, for example, with Sandy. You had to be registered with FEMA that you had damage. Then you would basically take that FEMA number and come back to SBA with it. Although FEMA is taking a lead role in general in the country with respect to COVID-19, they are not involved in this program. So no, because FEMA can't come out and look at your business and say, yeah, their sales are down 30%. There's only 2 cars in the parking lot. Well, there's only 3 spots in the parking lot. So, so yeah, FEMA doesn't have a role in this at all.
Okay. Just to clarify, payments start after 1 year. When does interest start?
After 1 year.
Okay.
So it's basically, it's a 1-year deferral. So you get the money. hopefully it's saving your business, and then everything starts in 1 year.
Okay. Are there prepayment penalties?
No, and that's the really good thing about this. Let's assume you come up with a number, and you've got in your mind, okay, if I get this much money, I can get by for 9 months and rebuild the business, and life will be good and everything else. And let's say the skies open up, and a cure comes down from the heavens, and we're done with this in another 6 weeks, and your business gets back in 2 months. You can turn around and write a check to SBA with no prepayment penalties whatsoever.
Okay. How does it work if you have just started a new business that was materially impacted just as it was kicking off with no real demonstrated track record after significant investment?
At the risk of sounding flip, that's going to be difficult. And again, it's not that the government is not interested in new businesses, it's that it's hard to make a case with a new business. Give us a call offline, and we'll see what the pieces seem to say in that particular case. But I can honestly say it's going to be difficult because we don't have the history. And any entity that lends money, they're lending basically on your ability to repay. And we can't document that ability to repay. We have no business history. That said, if you operated, Tom's taco stand for years and sold it, whatever, and the business you started is, Tom's tamales, different story. We can say you've got an experience and a history in the business, and we think you're going to do this. So it's going to be a bit case by case. It will be difficult for sure, but talk to us offline and we'll see what we can come up with.
Great, thanks, Tom. We do have quite a few more questions. So just know if you have sent it in, we'll definitely get to it. And if for some reason we don't today, we'll definitely contact you offline. In the case of nonprofits, are they required to provide personal tax information?
That's a good question to which I don't have a good answer. Because nonprofits are in kind of a weird category. Nonprofits are not really owned by anybody. They're owned by the entity that they serve, per se. I mean, that's kind of how it fits in law. So I don't really know, but I'll find out. I will find that out.
Great. Is there a contact for smaller loans?
Yes. If you Google community capital, Westchester County, I don't remember their stuff off the top of my head. Actually, I do have one screen that's still working here. Okay, you got your pencil handy for community capital for the smaller loans? 914-747-8020. Now, keep in mind that community capital is facing the same issue that you guys are facing in terms of executive orders for, working from home and working remotely and not having more than, I think we have to have 100% of our employees elsewhere nowadays, as of today. So they're facing the same issues that you guys are facing in terms of having staff available. So cut them a little slack in terms of, leave them a message. I'm sure they'll get back to you. I mean, they're a very committed group. They're an excellent group to work with. But like I say, they're running into the same challenges that you guys are. I do have to thank SUNY very much, in particular, Dr. Bastion, who's the president of the campus over here in Rockland, who deemed us essential services because of what we do for business. And that has enabled us to keep staff on hand here and be ready to help businesses with this information and with their applications. So thanks to SUNY for designating us as essential services. I just kind of figured I was essentially crazy for being one of the few people in the building, but we are here to help. We are committed to the process and committed to doing the best we can to help everybody solve the issues they're facing. It's an unprecedented challenge for business, and it's going to require all of us working together to figure it out and to move forward.
I agree, Tom. Thank you for mentioning that. Does applying for and taking an SBA disaster loan preclude you from taking other disaster loans and/or grants?
That's kind of a complex answer. It's a yes and a no answer. It doesn't necessarily preclude you, but you do have to disclose it. So, for example, when Superstorm Sandy hit in New York, the New York grant program came out after the SBA disaster loan program had already been utilized well by a lot of folks. So on the grant application, you had to disclose that you had received an SBA disaster loan. It didn't preclude you from getting it, but you did have to disclose it. So I know that's kind of a convoluted answer, but no. And also, nothing prevents you from doing disaster loan 1 now, or disaster loan A. And let's assume this continues beyond 6 months and the economy is still upside down. You can apply for another SBA loan. And that's written into the program already and written into the declarations that you can get a second loan if this continues beyond a certain time.
This is a two-part question, Tom, and I believe you answered the first part already. Are there restrictions regarding payoff if in 6 months things rebound and a company wants to pay back the loan? Will there be annual filings of financial statement requirements during the life of the loan?
Not that I'm aware of. I'll double check that, but I don't believe so. It's a loan, and as long as you're paying it, SBA doesn't need to know what you're doing in your business. As long as you're paying your loan, they're happy campers. I know with other SBA loans, with some 504s, you do have to report some stuff. With 7As, you don't. 7As, you get the money, you sign your closing documents. As long as you pay your bill, everybody's happy. So, I think this is in that category. There's not an ongoing reporting requirement. And if you choose to pay it off, that's your choice. SBA is not going to say no, I can tell you that.
Thank you. We had a couple questions from folks asking if they'd be able to access this presentation again. We are recording it and we will make that available in a follow-up email for folks to watch. How are C Corps treated? Example, I am not the business owner, but instead 97% shareholder. Do I still count as a third-party creditor who requires payment, salary, or debt servicing?
I'm not sure I'm understanding the question entirely. If you're a 97% owner of a C corporation and you're a creditor to that corporation, i.e. you've done loans from shareholders, yeah, you can't use the money to retire the debt that you've established with the corporation. Being a C Corp versus a sole prop versus an LLC does not make a lot of difference in this disaster loan process. It's just which box you check on the first page for what your form of business is. But if there is a debt relationship between you as a 97% shareholder and the business, that debt relationship has to remain. You can't use the SBA money to retire that debt. No. You can use the SBA money to service that debt if it's been getting serviced. So if you've lent money to your business and you are paying it back, you can continue to pay it back using the SBA money, but you couldn't start paying it back using the SBA money.
Okay, and if there's any follow-up on that one, I'll keep an eye out.
Yep.
All right, are SBA loans which are used reported to the credit companies, and how does that affect credit ratings?
Good question. There's generally a UCC filing with SBA loans. There is a credit inquiry that's done as part of the underwriting process. They like to make sure that the owner treats credit responsibly in general, in part because that there is a provable relationship that if you treat your personal credit with respect and treat it well, you'll treat your corporate credit with respect and treat it well. So there will be a pull, but it's a soft pull. But no, they do not go back and say, that so-and-so borrowed X dollars because you didn't, your business did. Yeah, even if there's a guarantee, yeah, there's a UCC, but no, they don't. It's not, I'd be foolish if I said it will have no impact, but it should not have a significant impact.
Okay, this is along the same lines. What are implications to business owners if they default on the loan?
SBA is going to come after you. again, not trying to be flip, but you borrowed money, SBA is going to come and say, okay, you got to pay it back. They will try to exercise against whatever assets, if any assets remain. They do have workout teams that you can meet with and say, yep, I'm sorry, my business did not work out. I still owe X. I can give you $200 a month, and if it's a reasonable kind of thing where you can pay it off in 15 or 20 years, SBA is probably going to say yes. They don't want to take your house. They rarely do, but they do want to get paid. It is a loan. So, they're not going to say, oh, that's okay, you're a nice guy, you can walk away from it. No, they're not going to say that. And
Thank
part
you.
of it is you put your taxpayer hat on. Do you want your government lending money to people who are going to walk away from the obligation, or do you want them lending money to people who are probably going to pay it back? I'm sorry, go ahead, Renee.
No problem. This company is a two-person company that provides table and chair massage therapy to individuals, corporations, and clubs. We are prevented from performing our services as of tomorrow. Are we eligible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, and we had another question that was related to the process, which will also help this person as well. On your screen right now, let's start with some important links. Can you go through maybe the process of where they should start first?
I would start most likely. I would start with SBDC, not just because I'm the SBDC director for the area, but SBDC has no axe to grind in this equation. We'll talk to you, help you figure out where you fit in this sequence of events, and we'll help you with some key questions, strategize how you can work a plan best to survive this. So I would start with that. Then I would go to basically start the application. It's going to take a long time to do. It's a long, complex application with a lot of questions on it. And keep in mind that SBA is so restricted from doing certain types of business. One of the sign-off pages that you're going to go through, you're going to have to certify that you're not barred from doing business with the government, that you don't have any outstanding tax liens, and if you do, that's maybe okay if you got a payment plan and you're on your payment plan, then they're okay with it. There's a bunch of other certifications because over the years, as politicians have decided that we shouldn't support certain types of businesses like gambling, horse racing, boxing, whatever. They put restrictions on SBA's ability to deal with companies in that. So you're gonna have to certify to a bunch of things. SBA also has to comply with a whole bunch of executive orders that you don't discriminate, you don't do this, you don't do this, you don't do this, you don't like run over manatees in the street kind of thing. So yeah, you're gonna sign a bunch of declarations at the end. So it is a long application. Get started on it.
Thank you. Assuming all requirements are met and information provided, how quickly is loan funded?
Okay, assuming that's sort of a two-part question. It's about, right now they're telling us it's 21 days to review the application and make a decision. Once it's approved, then you're going to go through a relatively quick process. Right now, the signatures are on paper. SBA is going to print a bunch of stuff, send it to you. You're going to have to sign it, turn around and send it back. Once they receive it back, it's going to go into a digital queue, and the Treasury is going to transfer money to your account via ACH, Automated Clearinghouse. So after approval to receive the funds, it's electronic, so it's just going to be a couple of days. I would say just kind of rule of thumb, like I would say most folks are 45 to 60 days away from actually seeing cash in their bank. Just between a reasonable time for the application to be processed, if the underwriters have any questions. If you checked box B6 as one thing and it should have been B7, all those things have to get fixed. So assuming your application is approved, let's say in 30 days, mail goes back and forth in 7 days. The Treasury cuts checks, I think it's 2 days a week. They call it cutting checks still, even though it's not really a check. It's electronic. So hence, that's why I say figure about 45 days on the short end.
Okay. If a business has already submitted an application to the SBA, do you still recommend they speak with an SBDC advisor?
It might not be a bad idea. Keep in mind that if you've already done the application, yeah, we're happy to help you. I mean, that's what we do when we're not doing disasters, is we help businesses with everything from capital to marketing to sales to planning to whatever. We can help you like strategize some stuff. So yeah, we are going to be busier than Stink, so we may not be as quick as we usually are to answer your stuff. But sure, absolutely. It's a resource. We're here to help, and we can provide you with some ideas, some advice, some information. It's up to you what you do with that.
Thank you. If there's a soft pull on personal credit, does SBA weigh how leveraged the business owner is personally, or does SBA weigh only business debt to income ratios?
I don't know. I'm not an SBA underwriter, and that has not come up before. I will try to find out. I don't know if I can or not. Being that these are guaranteed loans, SBA might look at it, just as part of being, doing prudent underwriting. But I'll find out. And so if you've got a question like that we're going to get back to you with offline, Renee, can you send me those questions somehow?
Yep, I can. I can
Cool.
run a report.
Right, and if folks can attach an email to their question kind of thing or something, so I have a way to
Yeah,
get back
they
to them.
won't even have to worry about it if the email is the one they registered with, it will be associated with the question.
Okay, cool. Right, and then I'll respond to that email when we get the answers to that. So yeah, that'll be one of our offline questions. Cool.
Perfect. If a company closed due to COVID-19 and all employees are filing for unemployment, but the company intends on rehiring when they can reopen, please explain whether or not currently qualify for operations, existing loans, rent, etc.
I didn't catch the end of the question.
Apologies, I read that a little quickly. Please explain whether or not currently qualify for operations, existing loans, rent, etc. And I don't know.
The sense I got from the question was if you closed your business because of the virus, but you are planning to reopen it, SBA does not penalize you for being a prudent manager and for complying with executive orders. So if you closed your business in terms of okay, I closed the door and put a sign up and said, we'll be back as soon as we can, as soon as the governor lets us come back. Yeah, you didn't close the corporation, you just suspended operations. So yes, you qualify for it, absolutely.
Great. And if I read that question incorrectly, which I think I did, please send me a follow-up and I will take care of that. Would opening within 2 years be considered new business?
2 years, maybe. There's generally a minimum 1 year in business for a lot of things. So if you're 2 years in business, that's a good thing. I don't recall off the top of my head what FASB says about that, whether 2 years in business with whatever kind of results, if it still carries a risk statement on its financial statements. I don't recall that off the top of my head. But 2 years is a good thing. Yes, it's younger than somebody that's 5 years, but it's certainly acceptable to SBA.
Okay. I have a parent company that operates subsidiaries in different states. Do I fill out separate applications for each subsidiary or the parent? Can a parent have more than one loan?
The best answer I can give you for that is give me a call offline, because it depends. And there is some regulatory information in the affiliate documentation that's at one of the links that's on the screen. But in some cases, and a lot depends on what the interactions between the companies that are affiliated may or may not be. And that will sometimes go to determining, okay, that your maximum is X. And it also will sometimes go to the issue that if you've got a business in Texas that's making parts for your business in Indiana, that's making an assembly for your business in New York, they may have to apply in Texas and apply in Indiana and apply in New York. It depends on your particular circumstance. So reach out to us and I'll try to get you the answer that makes sense in your circumstance.
Thanks, Tom. And you were that 845 number, correct?
Yes, yeah, 845-356-6065.
And I'll also put in the chat the link to your center from the nysbdc.org.
Thank you.
So you can see that in your chat box right now, in addition to the other links referenced and the phone numbers. You've talked a couple of times about businesses that have been in business less than 1 year or 2 years. So we have a couple more questions on whether or not they would qualify. Would you recommend that they would just meet with an advisor to make that decision? Or if they did apply, what would you recommend they provide?
Yes to both. Yes, absolutely. Meet with an advisor because it may depend on what kind of business and what sort of business level you're at, what the investment in the business is. So yeah, there can be many different circumstances there and many different contexts. So yes, reach out to an advisor. The worst that's going to happen if you apply and for some reason SBA doesn't like you because you're not in business long enough, the worst that's going to happen is SBA is going to say no. But they have a chance of saying yes if you fill out the application. If you don't fill out the application, they can't say yes. So yeah, I would say definitely talk to your advisor and set the account up so you can do the application. And then odds are do the application. There's also going to be, I'm not putting words in SBA's mouth. Don't hear this that way. There's going to be tremendous pressure on SBA to get as much money into small business hands and circulation as possible. Will that translate to relaxed underwriting guidelines? I don't know. I'm not SBA, we're SBDC. But there will be a lot of political pressure for SBA to be a salvation to many businesses. So absolutely, I would do the application because the worst they can do is tell me no.
Thank you. Can we include, go ahead, Tom.
Go ahead, Renee. One more question, then we're gonna have to go because I unfortunately have to get on another presentation.
Okay. Can we include anticipated unemployment that we'll have to pay for staff we had to furlough?
Oh, that your increased experience ratings charges with DOL? Yes, that's a valid expense. That's a working capital expense. It's in the same category as payroll. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Marsha, so much for joining us. Like Tom mentioned, he does need to go. We will provide the recording.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Renee and Tom and Howard and the team. Again, we will be here. We will be here to work with the SBDC to help our businesses access this information. Encourage you to follow us on our website at www.thebcw.org and our Facebook and LinkedIn pages as well.
And Marsha, thank you very much for setting this up. We appreciate it and for giving us access to your members so we can get this information into the hands of the folks that need it. Thank you for that. I appreciate
it. The SBDC continues to be a very, very valuable partner to the Business Council of Westchester. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Again, I'll I'll export the additional questions that were not answered and we'll get those to Tom. If you have any other questions, definitely feel free to reach out. You can respond to the email that you registered on, or you can call Tom's office and I'll provide that link again for their SBDC to everyone. It will be located in the chat box. And again, thank you, Marsha. Thank you, Tom. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Renee. Appreciate the organization and
take care all.
Good luck, guys.